Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. It's Friday, January 3rd. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Cybersecurity professionals are badly needed across California, the U.S., and the world. In some cases, these jobs help secure computer networks and databases of sensitive information. However, the World Economic Forum predicts that by 2030, the cybersecurity workforce could be short by 85 million workers globally. To help combat this potential employment gap here in California, Fresno State, along with San Jose State and Cal State San Bernardino, have created a pilot program for cybersecurity education. One of those involved in the pilot program is Fresno State criminology professor Dr. Keith Clement. He also chairs a committee with the California Cybersecurity Task Force. Professor Clement recently joined me to discuss this major workforce need, and he first explained why cybersecurity matters from a criminology perspective.
So one of the aspects of criminology is understanding the causes of crime and how we cope with the causes of crime. But another key provision of criminology is the reduction of victimization. So the way that you reduce victimization, of course, is that the crime never occurs. In the U.S., we are expected to lose about $10.5 trillion globally in 2025 due to cyber crimes across the world. But I just wanted to say that one reason why what I do is different than a lot of other cybersecurity professionals out there is that I'm a social scientist, and I view cybersecurity as a people problem, not a computer machine problem, right? Because they do as they're programmed and told, and criminology is a part of the College of Social Sciences at Fresno State University. And so we are very interested then in its broader connectivity. And if we were able to better educate our populace and our citizenry in how to be good cybersecurity type people, then, that we really want to get the word out and amplified.
Yeah, I know Fresno State's among several CSU campuses where faculty are working to train students to work in cybersecurity, and there is a shortage of cybersecurity professionals. So how's the campus going about that?
So if we looked at the global situation, there's about 4 million estimated cybersecurity jobs available. If we look at the United States, there's about 450,000 cybersecurity jobs. If we looked at the state of California, there's about 55,000 cybersecurity jobs. And if we looked at Central Valley, California, there's about 6,000 IT types of jobs, of which about 600 are probably security related that are open right now. I mean, that if you had the qualifications, education, and work experience, they would snap you up in a heartbeat. And the problem is that a lot of educational institutions are just not able to turn out the numbers to meet the demand. And what ends up happening is that the demand goes unfilled. And many of our Central Valley and California cyber and information security teams are on a skeleton crew. And if somebody gets sick or takes maternity leave or goes on vacation, whenever somebody leaves the office, it really puts an undue burden on the folks that are still there. And that's when the shenanigans start, right? I mean, if there's nobody watching the store, then there's additional opportunities for vulnerability exploitation. And we as people need to be much savvier about how we do these things, and across all generations, right? I mean, I'm really talking about elderly and youth, and we really need to staff these teams so that we can reduce, cyber shenanigans.
That's a good way to put it. The end goal, I believe, is for the CSU, which has 23 campuses, to essentially become like a pipeline for the cybersecurity industry. So what kind of skills are valuable in this line of work, and in what ways is Fresno State and the CSU system trying to address that employee shortage in cybersecurity?
So as a little bit of background, I spoke about my serving as a professor of criminology at Fresno State. I also have the honor and privilege of serving the California Cybersecurity Task Force, co-led by the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services and the California Department of Technology. In the last 5 or 6 years, working with Cal OES and CDT, California Department of Technology, we have been working on a career pipeline in cybersecurity from kindergarten all the way through doctoral degree programs. So the entire span of the education. So in, I don't know, maybe 2021, 2022, I wrote a report to the California State Assembly that laid out a career pipeline pathway that we could implement here in California. A good amount of that report was included in AB 569, which directed the state of California to set up a prototype of cybersecurity education programs within the California State University. And the CSU Chancellor's Office designated 3 campuses as a result of our significant activities in the area of cybersecurity. Of course, our colleagues at Cal State San Bernardino are the lead institution, and for excellent reason. They have 7 or 8 degree programs in this area, hundreds of students in their programs. In addition, they selected San Jose State University because San Jose State is heavily involved in graduate education and engineering, science, computer science types of programs in conjunction with industry, right? I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to San Jose, but they're right in the middle of all that. And here at Fresno State, it's because of our close ties with the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services and the California Cybersecurity Integration Center, where we're doing all of our work developing a statewide approach to cybersecurity education, which also includes, just so we know, cyber awareness and preparedness. Because I mean, we're talking about education from like a workforce development perspective, like how to get people ready for jobs and then how to get them jobs. But we also are deeply concerned with building training and awareness programs. We are only as safe as the weakest link. And we need to make sure that cybersecurity professionals are drawn from all walks of life. And that includes what, Fresno needs a significant workforce boost in these emerging technologies. And I hope that was a sufficient answer for you, because I could go on for days.
No, it makes me think, when you mentioned all generations need to become more aware of cybersecurity, I mean, I'm thinking of kids are getting Chromebooks at a young age, and you also have elderly folks who might not know how to install certain softwares to protect them. So what about just everyday tips for people that they should know at this point, outside of the professional route? Any tips people should know to stay aware and increase cybersecurity on the devices they use every day?
I think seriously, the best advice is just to be vigilant. And if you don't recognize when an individual or a phone number or, when somebody's trying to contact you, always find an independent way to confirm whatever it was. I got a recent email from a colleague at work, and they used their personal account or a personal account. I didn't recognize the account. I sent them an independent email to the email address that I know. And I said, is this you? And of course it was. There was a quick apology about how I was just answering emails from home, and I just sent the wrong, from the wrong account. That's the kind of thing. Folks need to know that a hacker could develop a Hotmail or a Yahoo account in like 30 seconds. And they could put it in your boss's name or your children's name, or any name that would resound with you personally. You'd see the same, I recognize that name. But it's not them. It's 30 seconds. The common advice, unfortunately, for many of us is to change your passwords frequently. And don't use the same password across all of your applications, right? And we spoke about this in one of my classes, cybersecurity classes, the other day. There's an immediacy or a time component when people are sending you phishing or, curious emails like, you need to act now, or, something bad's going to happen. And so as a person, whenever I see an email that demands now, it better be from somebody that I'm expecting that kind of an email from. And from outside sources, I would almost delete those out of hand. If you don't recognize that number and they say you need to call me now, I'm like, I might not actually.
I feel like we could keep talking about this for a long time, Keith, but before we have you go, is there anything else you'd like to add?
So the Fresno State University and Fresno Community College are partnering on a grant through the National Telecommunication Information Agency to set up a pathway within our own Central Valley community that starts from digital literacy, literally teaching people how to set up an email account, all the way through a series of information literacy courses and advanced, intermediate, and a beginner cybersecurity certificate program at Fresno State. So we are making a difference. This is not Silicon Valley. This is not the Washington, D.C. Beltway. We have a unique population to serve in getting people ready for the jobs of the future. And I mean across all sectors and all walks of life.
That was my conversation with Dr. Keith Clement. He's a professor of criminology at Fresno State. And that does it for today. We would love to hear from you if you have feedback or a story idea for the show. Just email us at podcast@kvpr.org. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden and KVPR with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Elizabeth Arkalian. Find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
We could all use a little help navigating the news these days. The Consider This podcast wants to give you a hand. 6 days a week, we'll help you make sense of the day's biggest news story and what it means for you in less than 15 minutes. Listen now to the Consider This podcast from NPR.